Charlie Kirk was a celebrity with a fan base, people who constructed an identity, around his purported values. His organization, Turning Point USA, boasts chapters on over 3,500 campuses across the country. TPUSA got on my radar long before Kirk was shot. I grew up with a kid who we'll call Ian. We didn't know each other that well, but in a small town, schools are small. I knew that he was smart, that he came from a good family, that he was funny. He liked to make people laugh. He's kind of a class clown. In high school, he ran for student body president. He had these goofy stickers with his face on them. He was a real skinny, kind of scrawny looking kid. And he passed out so many, I think they're probably still scraping them off the bottoms of the desks. I figured he was going to college. I didn't think about him much after graduation until I ran into his ex-girlfriend. We were sitting on a boat launch when she told me they had started dating after I graduated. I knew her better than him. She's real smart, state championship winning athlete, an EMT. I have Mardi Gras cups in my house with her face on them from when she was crowned queen. They both got scholarships to go to school, a big out-of-state SEC school with solid academics. Only he got there first because he was older. While he was there and she was still in high school, he changed in a way that ultimately led to them breaking up. She leaned over on that boat launch and showed me this.
And people are like, well, and if you don't choose the right one, then she might divorce you. She might divorce me? Are you kidding me? Yeah. It's like she's going to divorce me. What if I just don't let her? Like I said, what if I gaslight her? What if I make her emotionally dependent? Stop letting your wives be so independent and they won't divorce you, or they can't even attempt to divorce you. Any mention of that, you backhander, you're like, no, you need me. Make her sign the prenup. Make her, whatever.
His personality is so distinct that I was sure it was a joke. A convoluted bit he was performing to mock the very people he seemed to have allied himself with. The video appears to have been produced as a personal attack on him, posted across multiple social media platforms. Images of him with TPUSA leadership and controversial right-wing figures follow clips of him talking. His ex assured me that this was the new him. At school, he joined Turning Point and eventually got himself elected vice president. They sent him to conferences. At one, he appears to have first met Nick Fuentes, a friendship that he went out of his way to cultivate. A watchdog organization I found online that tracks far-right influencers and people in that space that they deem could develop into more prominent figures, identified him as a fringe groyper, a supporter of Fuentes. The Turning Point chapter he was vice president of, was reached out to by that organization, and they claimed he no longer had any affiliation with them, although pictures of him is still available on their public Instagram. You can see him in the foreground, in the background, in several photos. If you don't know who Nick Fuentes is, even the laziest Google search will reveal the depths of his extremism. He has openly admitted, and this is not an exaggeration, to align politically with Hitler. I wanted to understand Turning Point USA and its members a little better, so I reached out to one, the sitting president of the LSU chapter. Mark Schuppel is not someone I knew directly, but I had seen him and his buddy, another member, hanging around my favorite dive bar, shooting pool, and they stuck out to me. They were dressed like churchgoers, khakis and collared shirts in the kind of place that has 2 cigarette machines. I spoke to them a few times, and I knew that they were members of the organization, so I reached out, and Schuppel agreed to meet with me in the heart of LSU's campus in the Quad to answer questions about his organization and his own personal political identity. All right. My name's Campbell. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, man.
Why don't you sit down?
Absolutely.
Okay. And you are Mark?
Mark Schuppel.
Okay. How long have you been in TPUSA?
I've been part of Turning Point for about a year now, a little over a year.
A year?
Mm-hmm.
And you are on the exec board, right?
I'm the president now.
What motivated you, you've only been in for a year, to run for president? Or do you guys kind of elect somebody? Like, how does it work?
Sure. Well, I got involved pretty quickly. I transferred in here from the University of Iowa.
Really?
And they had a YF chapter, not Turning Point, but Young Americans for Freedom, kind of a similar organization there. And I wasn't
thrilled with the experience, just kind of dipping my toes into that my freshman year. So when I got down here, I was pretty content to stay out of college politics altogether. But the president and the vice president at that point were extraordinary people, and became good friends with them, and they got me involved pretty quickly.
Okay. So are you from Iowa?
I'm from Wisconsin.
You're from
originally.
Wisconsin. Okay,
Mhm.
cool. So I mean, do you identify as a conservative? Is that what you would say that's your?
I'd say so.
Yeah. Did you feel that way before you got to college? Was it part of your upbringing? Like, what led you to hold the political belief system that you have now?
Sure. I'd say it's been something I grew up with. I didn't really go to church a whole lot. Growing up, my parents were spiritual people. I was baptized, but we weren't, I never went to Sunday school.
Yeah,
or
I mean,
anything.
my mom's like super Catholic. She brought us to church, but I just did not. It just
Sure.
didn't take. Not yet, anyway.
Yeah,
But,
everyone's on a path, I believe.
Do you see yourself becoming more spiritual?
I would say so. I wouldn't tie that to politics, and I'm skeptical of the people that do. Religion is something that I think you can take great foundation in and great identity in, and I think people nowadays on both sides of the aisle
Kind of use it to justify or explain certain.
Well, and they use politics as a similar foundation. They take so much of their identity in politics, so much of their relationships, especially their relationships, out of politics, and it becomes this sort of deified.
It's like tribalism. Like you kind of I understand what you're saying. Like, in a way, your political party is your congregation.
Absolutely.
For some people,
it's a disturbing trend, and I think opening up the world of politics, opening up the spirit of discussion and civil disagreement is kind of the best way to start eradicating that tribalism.
Kirk was very a huge part of his, his politics and religion were intertwined. Is that like an aspect of his perspective that you disagree with, or do you think that was, I do think a lot of the times people go out of their way to clip or exaggerate moments where he mentions religion, but that was definitely a big part of his messaging. Do you think, is that something about the aspect of the way he presented his views that you disagree with?
I wouldn't say I disagree with it. Christians guide their lives by Christian principles, and it's only fair when it's respectable when Christians go to Washington or Christians enter the world of politics that they bring those foundations with them.
That they don't pretend to not have that as a motivating factor for their politics.
Absolutely, no. It's a great thing, and I think more Christian morals, could definitely
that's important.
Work their way into politics. Kirk and many others have long preached that America is a Christian nation, but we're not a theocracy. And I think that's a very important distinction. We are a nation predominantly of Christian people, founded by predominantly Christian founders, and
on philosophies developed by, some people would argue, on philosophies developed primarily by people with Christian perspectives or understanding. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Well, and historically speaking, the movement to separate the church and the state, and the idea that the halls of government should be these sterilized atheistic institutions is just fundamentally wrong. The idea that church and state should be completely apart from each other. The people are
the people involved in government by their nature are going to be religious.
Absolutely.
And the nature of religion as a foundation for moral understanding means that your argument or your idea is that it is technically kind of impossible to truly separate a person's religious perspective from their political perspective, because they develop their idea of right and wrong, or many of them develop their idea of right and wrong from their religion, and your idea of right and wrong helps you influence your politics.
Absolutely. And I think from a policy-driven standpoint, it's, as a nation, as a country of many religions, it's important that we don't, when we're legislating, we don't justify solely our policy off of Scripture. It can be important to us based off of Scripture, but we cannot justify policy and legislation off Scripture alone. That's where you have theocracy. So I think that's the important distinction.
Yeah. So how aware were you of TPUSA before you got here? Because you didn't have a chapter in Iowa.
I was very aware. I mean, I grew up, watching, Charlie Kirk videos. When you and I were in high school, it was a smaller operation, but still.
Yeah, he's been big and going to college campuses and for a long time. Did you ever get to see him speak, or?
I did not. So he was supposed to come out late October. It was 24th, and speak at LSU. So we were.
And he got killed before that.
He did. So he was killed on September the 10th. We were in the full throes of getting ready for that event,
preparing and figuring out the logistics. And
the weekend, or the week that he passed away, that next weekend that upcoming weekend, we were supposed to be meeting with folks from National to start getting the ball rolling on security logistics.
Really,
I've got crap load of flyers in my house and posters and a T-shirt promoting
for that specific event. Dude, that's nuts, man.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you feel when you found out he got killed?
I didn't believe it when the news came out.
You thought it was a hoax, or?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff coming out right now. Like, I would not be surprised if we saw a fake headline.
Mm-hmm. I couldn't believe it when it happened. I was at work, and I got instantly phone calls coming in, and that's when I was like, oh crap, maybe it is real.
Really
and
happened.
then it was, I mean, I had the news open on my phone and Twitter and CBS on my laptop. I was just waiting for an update,
some kind of
to see
confirmation, see if he would live.
Yeah, if he was going to pass away. And at that point, I was kind of communications director for our chapter. So I just sat down and began writing out a statement if he had lived, writing out a statement if he passed away, and ultimately we didn't end up publishing anything. We were just kind of given a full lid by National in that moment. But we, myself, the president, the vice president, and other prominent college conservatives, we sprang into action that night, starting to put together a memorial service for him on campus. It ended up being
pretty big event.
A very big event. We the seating capacity was like 1,200. We filled it up very quickly on campus here, and it was the service we were able to put together on such short notice was fantastic. It was fantastic, and that was the support we saw right out of the gate was very, very heartening.
How do you feel about his wife taking up his position, his mantle?
She has a yeoman's task.
Yeah, it's hard.
It absolutely is, and that's not a job that you can expect a grieving widow to just take on flawlessly. And she has done a fantastic job picking up, and it's the direction of Turning Point long term is going to be, you can't hope to separate or look to separate Turning Point from Charlie. The institution will always be, to some extent,
his legacy.
His legacy, absolutely. And I think Eric has done a fantastic job of preserving that legacy aspect. And as it hasn't even been a year yet. So the long-term goals and structure for Turning Point, it's impossible to know or forecast.
What do you think attracted you to Kirk? before you joined the organization, afterwards, what do you think made him such a popular figure in this, developing movement?
I really liked something that you touched on, which is going to campuses, just humbly sitting behind a table and having conversations with everyday people. And he was one of the great pioneers of that form of debate, and it's absolutely one that cannot go out with him. And I in the wake of everything that happened, I myself thought that kind of changed my mind, man on the street sort of political media had died, but it's slowly starting to come back, and I'm very glad that it has.
Yeah. Have you ever felt like when you tell someone that because I know a lot of people, they see those videos and they especially the clips of him arguing with people, and they think of Turning Point as kind of a hostile organization, or they see argument and they don't process debate. They just see argument.
Sure.
Have you ever felt like when you told someone that you were involved that they did not like that? Or have you ever had a confrontation with someone where they were, because there's a lot of, obviously there's a lot of divide, especially on college campuses. You have a lot of diverse political opinions. Have you ever encountered that from someone that you're talking to where you're like, oh yeah, I'm in TPSC, and they're like, really? Like, why? Or
Oh, absolutely. It's it carries with it quite a reputation, that I don't think is wholly founded, but
how do you think people see the organization that don't understand it?
I think if people want to view it as a belligerent institution, they're able to.
Well,
and
politics, people are always going to see,
I think one of the things that people kind of harped on Charlie's style for, that was they're saying, oh, he was going into campuses and taking advantage of college students that didn't know all the facts. And they're voters. They're young Americans. They're on college campuses molding their minds. They're no less worthy. I think it's an incredible spit in the face of the average college student to say that they're not capable of having debate, or not worthy of having debate with a rhetorician like.
So
like
some
Charlie.
people would say some of the counter arguments for his approach was that he was debating people who were underinformed, and your response to that is that, technically everybody's underinformed, and these are people who are actively trying to learn, and by engaging in debate, they're demonstrating that they have some confidence in their, you know what I mean? It's kind of ridiculous to say, they choose to talk to him. You know what I mean? It's a little ridiculous to say, how could you debate someone who knows less than you? It's impossible to know that before you start talking to them, and it's also, it's crazy to rule out a conversation with someone just because they're underinformed, or they might be underinformed.
Their vote counts just as much.
Exactly.
Charlie got one vote, I get one vote, you get one vote, they get one vote. So they are, in the eyes of the electoral process, they are no more or
Every
less
voter
important.
is equal, no matter how educated they are.
Absolutely. So bringing that debate to the everyday American, and allowing the everyday American, the everyday college student, to compare and contrast ideas, even if it gets spirited.
So what do you
beautiful
feel
thing.
like is the primary objective of TPUSA?
Have conversations.
To have conversations, to educate and have conversations.
Absolutely. When moms and dads stop talking, that's when a marriage falls apart. When political factions in a nation stop talking to each other, that's when a country falls apart. So bridging that divide and starting conversations, uncomfortable conversations, lively conversations, starting those at the human level, face to face, is the most direct process to soothing chilling the intensity that we're seeing in politics nowadays. We hide behind our phones and social media, and it's a lot easier to insult somebody over Twitter than it is right to their face. And it's a lot easier to build up rival political factions as these demagogue, evil institutions. They're run by people. They're Americans. If they believe in the prosperity of Americans, if they believe in the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and they have a different way of getting there, let's talk about it. You are not categorically evil. I do not eat babies. Let's talk. And so much of that rhetoric ratchets down when you just have an honest conversation.
Do you feel like, there's this big, I feel like that is a concentration, I feel like, of a lot of people in our generation who are trying, the people who are actually trying to get engaged in politics are usually trying to focus on the fact that they feel like the conversation is broken down. Mm-hmm. This wave of conservatism that has gotten Trump elected twice now, do you feel like he is a representation of, especially now with everything that's happened in his he's got 5 years, 6 years of track to kind of look out over. Do you feel like he's actively representing your interests? Do you feel like the Republican Party is representing you right now? Or I know a lot of conservatives, like I got buddies who are really frustrated. They feel like what they voted for isn't what's happening.
Sure. Well, I can never hope to agree with any individual, any politician, any administration 100%. And I'm cautious of people that say they're 100% for, 100% against anybody. We should all find common ground. If we haven't talked enough. The president came in with a mandate, and I think from a policy standpoint, he's made great strides.
What are some of the things he's done that you think you are like, yes, this is what you feel like conservatives or what you wanted?
I think the biggest thing was obviously the border, and starting to take any sort of advocacy for our southern border. And you look at Europe and their mass migration problem, and they're starting to reckon the crisis that's on their hands all across Europe. They've taken in loads more than we have, and they're suffering for it. And so putting a stop to that, first and foremost. We have an immigration process that can absolutely use fixing. And this nation is right to take in legal immigrants, and it's a spit in every one of their faces when we show the back door to anyone that just wants to come in.
Yeah, it's a really difficult process to immigrate legally. It takes a long time, and it's hard, and you feel like it's not fair to the legal immigrants who go through that process when there are people who don't.
Absolutely. The immigration process is hard. This is a growing nation. But if you don't have borders, you don't have a country. And there has to be enforcement of that. And if you're not enforcing it, then why have a process? If the system's broken, if you need to refine the way we process, lawfully admitted immigrants, and you want to overhaul the citizenship process, do that. Legislate that. Put bills in place, appoint more judges, do what needs to be done there. But none of that's going to get any better, and none of that'll be a moot point if you don't first and foremost plug the leak. And that has been a great success.
Are there other policies that you think are successful, or any policies or anything that he's doing right now that you disagree with?
I disagree with, personally speaking?
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to speak as a representative of your organization. You can speak as how Mark feels.
Yeah. I take issue with some of the environmental stuff. I think this is a nation with the most bountiful natural resources. This is the most beautiful country in the world. And preserving those natural resources, preserving protected species, federal lands, I think gets a bad rap as this sort of tree hugger, greeny-weeny task. It's not. It's the Teddy Roosevelt conservatives, I think, should be making more of a comeback. So I'd say there's institutions within the Republican Party that are very pro-business, and I understand that, and I respect that a great deal. but I think there should be more of a check on our own side about moderating, what is pro-business and what is proper stewardship of our natural resources.
There are arguments about why it's important. I know what you mean.
Mm-hmm.
I know what you mean. You as important as development is, you think environmental protections are also important.
Absolutely.
And there are some people who don't feel that way. They feel like development should be unchecked, and there are some people who feel like environmental protection should be so encompassing. You're kind of somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I'd give you a good example. This obviously isn't the president's doing, but it's past one of the many hurdles in Congress. There is a mine bid up in the Boundary Waters. Beautiful part of
I've been camping up there actually on a Boy Scout trip, and it is actually one of the most beautiful places on earth.
Gorgeous. It's amazing. And there's a foreign mining company that is beginning the permitting process to drill mine, I believe it's for copper, up in that area. And I think that's a terrible thing. And it's past, there's some bevy of levels to get all the permitting and the background checks and environmental impact studies done. It'd be a very long process, but it's past the first of many hurdles in Congress, and I think that's obviously not the end of the story. It's just the beginning, but I personally don't think it should have ever begun.
How do you feel about our international stuff we've got going on right now? He talked a lot about not wanting to support some of the stuff that Biden supported, and now we've got this new entanglement in Iran.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about it? Do you think it's something that, how do you feel about it?
Iran is a hostile nation. The Iranian people are a terrific, fantastic culture, and the Persian culture stretches back millennia. The Iranian regime currently in place is not even old enough to be eligible for Social Security. This is not a war against the Iranian people. It is a war against an anti-American, anti-peace, theocratic regime. And I think the president's absolutely right to capitalize on a weak period in Iran's posture right now. They were right to kill Ayatollah Khomeini, and they're in this now, and they should see it through to the end. They have been the largest sponsor of terrorism. People say it's not our war, but look at the proxies that they've funded. They have killed hundreds of American service members. This is a war. This is a war on the American people, and I appreciate the explicit end game that the president wants to maintain.
He's been very open about the fact that he wants regime change.
Absolutely, and I think it's right right from the get-go. The first address that was put out. This regime change is to be done by the Iranian people. And the Crown Prince, who's spent some time in America, spent some time in Europe, seems like a very capable leader. He does not want to rule as a king. He's made that very clear. He would.
It's the Ayatollah's kid, I think.
It's the
different guy. I'm tripping. Someone explained it to me that there's a prince, but there's also a different. I don't know exactly. I can't remember off the top of my head.
So I believe it's the Shah of Iran's son.
Yeah.
Who's
the heir apparent.
Yes. So he has long been, grown up, with his home country in a state of disarray and chaos, and he has long advocated for the return to a freer Iran. Iran used to be.
Yeah, before the revolution.
Absolutely. Tehran used to be the gem of the Middle East. Frank Sinatra played there, I believe, in the 70s. It was a lot like what Dubai is now. And we can return to that. They can return to that very, very quickly. You look at Silicon Valley.
I mean, they have the money, the resources.
Yeah, you look at Silicon Valley CEOs. A great number of them are Iranian. There is entrepreneurial spirit in Iran. They are not a broken, directionless nation. They're a very strong nation currently being held hostage by a very antagonistic regime, and you can see in the protests that they've done in the street. A great many have lost their lives in doing so. They believe very, very adamantly in regime change, and I think as the president, when you have that, the doubling factors of such an antagonistic regime that can kill tens of thousands of its own citizens and seemingly not face repercussions, and you have their open and indirect culpability in the murder of many American service members, it's impossible not to ignore that. It really is.
Yeah. Are there any other of our, entanglements that you feel like, you wish we wouldn't be involved in, or ones that you feel the same way about Iran? You're like, this makes sense, and this is something that we need to be motivated to.
I think the Venezuelan operation made a lot of sense as well. He was not the legitimate leader of Venezuela. He's a dictator, and was the head of a cartel. Making these operations into these red-blue issues, I think, is ludicrous. Because if the roles were reversed, I couldn't, in good faith, if it was a Democrat, if it was Joe Biden that went in and removed Nicolas Maduro, I couldn't, in good faith, see myself holding a sign saying "Bring him back." No, that's ridiculous. He was vehemently anti-American. He was profiting off of the narcotics invasion in our country, and the epidemic that drug addiction is in our country. He was not the rightful, the legitimate leader of Venezuela at that point. So.
Trump's been a figure in our politics, and a representative of, a proposed representative of conservative ideology for over a decade now. What are some aspects about him as a, figure, as a leader that, that draws you to support him? And what are some, you said nobody supports anybody 100%, and some things that you disagree with?
He has become quite the populist, and his message resonates so well with the average American citizen, the average blue-collar American citizen especially, for a bevy of reasons. I think the number one reason, it's after 6 years, and almost a decade as one of the most prominent people in American politics, he still almost has this anti-politician way about him, and it's just his rough nature. I think there's a lot of people that appreciate that almost lack of statesmanship.
That he's direct.
He's direct. He's in your face. He is one of the most, with the White House press corps, he's one of the most available, transparent people. He will field any question anywhere at any point from the press corps, and he'll insult the shoes of the reporter and their face at the same time. He's a very dynamic and an active person. I think a lot of people kind of look at the disingenuine sort of inorganic way that a lot of Washington politicians carry themselves. Every speech, every answer is very calculated. It's been choreographed, and the answers to questions have gone through a refining process. And Trump just goes off the rip, and I think a lot of people see that as a more genuine, more human style of dialogue, and they appreciate that sort of,
like listening to a podcaster instead of a traditional news talking head. Like, when you turn on the news and they don't have the same cadence, they're delivering a very controlled, measured, scripted, as opposed to somebody you feel like is speaking to you off the cuff directly.
Absolutely. There's there's a time and a place and many a career for statesmen, and maybe the ebbing and flowing of American politics will return back to one where we covet that sort of refined statesman figure as our commander-in-chief. But for right now, looking at the 2024 election, and especially the 2016 election, the mandate was clear. People wanted that human directness, and appreciated what they saw in the president.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask you, the name of Turning Point is centered around, it seems to me like this idea that there's been change happening, that the organization or conservatives are, it's like a rallying point. You know what I mean? That's what the word means to me. So I wanted to ask you, is there a thing that's most important to you politically, or is there a specific line politically that you hit that line and it trumps everything else for me? This is the most important thing for me politically. This is the thing I really care about the most, because there's a lot of people who are, they have specific political lines that once crossed by Trump or by any politician, that they change their perspective. Is there something that that he did or conservatives did or liberals did where you'd be like, that's too important to me, whatever I need to do to be on the other side of that line, I'm gonna do? Is there a specific political?
I would say don't trample on Christian Americans. Don't trample on Christian values. Don't trample on the American farmer. Don't trample on the American service member, American police officer. I think we'll get along just fine.
Those are your hard lines, which obviously a lot of that is stuff that we're struggling with right now.
If I can make one addition, I don't trample on the public school teacher either. One thing I think is paramount to our country and any country, the success of any country, is it's schooling system,
Public education.
Absolutely. So
yeah, my dad's a teacher. Has been
nice.
For a very long time.
Here in Louisiana? Or?
Yeah, here in Louisiana.
Very nice.
It's the reason I can read.
Oh well, fair enough.
Is there anything that you feel like people should know about Turning Point that they don't?
It is not a Christian indoctrination, conservative indoctrination program. The meetings I run, the events I try to hold, are centered around conversation and wholesome debate. I wholeheartedly invite any liberals, centrists, moderates, anybody to come.
Even libertarians. God forbid.
God forbid libertarian shows up. Anybody that thinks they might disagree with another person in the room, come to a meeting. You'll be the first to talk. You'll have the spot of honor. I'll bring you a donut. I love it when people who disagree with me, people who disagree, or maybe people who agree with me but disagree with other people in the room, come to a meeting to discuss. And I have never had a person come to a meeting that wasn't surprised at how positively they were treated. I think a lot of people are apprehensive about going in there because they're thinking they have to load for bear, and they're going to get just lambasted by every member of the room. I will not have that. If I ever got the idea that was what was happening, I'd throw the person responsible out.
You guys want to have open discussions, kill them with kindness.
Absolutely, and there's days, there's meetings where we don't we don't have as much dissent in the room. So that's when I come in. I play
Devil's advocate.
Absolutely. I go, well, what about this? What about this? Have you thought about it from this side? What would you say to a person that says that? We're not. It'd be a very slow, boring club if we just spent every meeting
Agreeing with each other.
going down the list of things that happened, that week, and we just agreed about every point. It'd be a very pointless chapter.
Yeah, so you guys you host speakers, have weekly meetings, stuff like that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is there anything else that you feel like I should know about you, about Turning Point, about anything in particular?
I'd say we're really just getting started now. I've been president for only a few months now, and we're looking to come into this fall with a lot of strength and a lot of energy, and we're looking for.
Has the chapter been growing?
It has been. It's there's been ebb and flow with since everything that happened last September, but we're feeling very good about where we are and our plans for the future.
Yeah. When people join, why do you feel like the reason they join is?
Curiosity, I think, a lot of times. I think, Charlie does and continue and continues to do the heavy lifting with getting people kind of interested in Turning Point. And there's only so much I can do, standing out in Free Speech Alley passing out buttons. But I think a lot of people join because they're curious, or they're looking to explore, conservatism, or at least, at the very least, political activism at even the most basic level. And I think the other, very underspoken part of the way that we conduct our chapter is the networking opportunities. It is a great opportunity if you are looking to get involved, maybe not necessarily even in politics, but in government. That we are a network of people who work all across the city, state, and federal level, and many people have come into the chapter, and it comes time to look for an internship, and we can make some real magic happen.
Okay. I know, obviously college students' commitment is kind of an issue. So you probably have people show up for one meeting and, disappear all the time. But have you seen anybody, walk away from the club or decide that they're not interested in conservatism anymore? Has that happened while you've been a member?
Not vocally. I'm sure some people
quietly
come to their own terms and bow out. But no one's really ever made an episode of anything.
Okay. Well, thank you for talking to me, man. I mean, I appreciate it. I'm going to do the write-up and record the podcast and cut up and send it to my professor, but I really appreciate it, man.
Fantastic. No, thank you very much.
And you have a good day, man. And next time I see you at Ivar's, I'm going to buy you a beer.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Faith came up in my conversation with Mark Schuppel more than once. That didn't surprise me. College campuses are full of people who are finding themselves, young people who are scared, anxious, and often isolated. If you've ever walked through Free Speech Alley, you know exactly what that population looks like to an organization with a table and a smile. The Mormons are there, the Episcopalians, the Catholics, Turning Point USA. Everyone's handing things out, welcoming strangers. Sometimes there's goodies, stickers. They see college students as recruitable. Sociologist Irving Goffman spent his career arguing that identity isn't something you have, it's something that you perform. That every social interaction is a kind of theater where we manage the impression we're making on an audience. What's interesting about both faith communities and political organizations is that they hand you a script, a costume, an audience that will reward you for learning your lines. Researchers who study radicalization have found something that should give us pause. People don't usually join movements because of ideology, they join because of community. The beliefs come later, absorbed gradually through deeper and deeper involvement, through the slow social cost of dissent. Most people who sit in a pew on Sunday don't believe every word of what's being said, but they're there because the community is real, even when the conviction is complicated. Psychologists call it diffuse identity, that particular vulnerability of young people who are still figuring out who they are, who are drawn to any group that offers them a clear answer, a defined role, a sense of purpose. Just as a missionary will tell you everyone is welcome, everyone is not. There are parts of the ideology, parts of the agenda that stay off the table until you're already in, until leaving feels like losing yourself. Faith is a performed identity. So is politics. Only the person themselves knows how much of it is real. Where does someone fork from the person they were into the person they're performing? And when does that performance end and the metamorphosis begin? I don't know where Ian is on that spectrum. I'm not sure that he does either.